I never thought that I would switch systems. I was a Sony user and I thought that this was the brand for me. But it all changed when this camera came out. Everything on paper just made sense, and after research and research, I've decided to go out and go for it. And that made me switch from Sony to Lumix, and that happened through the S1II. And that was 6 months ago, and ever since I've used it in multiple situations and different scenarios. And today in this video, I'm gonna talk about my experience with the Lumix S1II. So let me start by saying that this is not a review about the S1II at all. It's merely a feedback video. This is me telling you my experience with the Lumix S1II. I've been using this camera now for 6 months. I transitioned or switched from Sony. I've been using Sony for more than 3 to 4 years, something like that. And this is the first time to ever use Lumix. And the S1II was my door or gate to that ecosystem. So make yourself comfortable. Today we're gonna talk about the things that made me fall in love with that system and never look back again. Alright, so first of all, the thing that I noticed right away was the ergonomics. The ergonomics of this camera is just something else. It instantly reminded me of the DSLR days. Days that I thought that they're never coming back again, where I can actually hold the camera with my 4 fingers like that. I'm pretty comfortable. I don't have my pinky falling down like this, but the camera is really comfortable in the hands. It has like a deep grip over here. Handling this camera reminds me of my old DSLR Nikons that I used to have. And honestly, I didn't have that experience with the Sony cameras because they tend to be a little bit smaller. But ever since I got the S1II, and immediately I noticed that I'm more comfortable and I want to hold the camera even more. Now this could differ from a person to another, but something about the button layout just made sense. And I really admire it. So you got a record button over here, and then you got another one over here, which makes the whole process even better. You got a couple tally lights, one in the back over here, and then another one over here in the front. Every single button can be customized, which is awesome. In addition to having 5 custom buttons here in the mode dial, which is really great. For here you got the camera modes, photo mode and video mode, and when you switch from mode to another, it'll maintain the same settings that you had from the last time, which is awesome. Again, the fact that you have your focus modes over here, like a button for the focus modes, but then the S, the C, the M, whether it's continuous or single point or manual focus right outside. I don't have to actually press the menu button or anything. In addition to the quick menu button over here to just put whatever you use the most, and again, it is customizable. The button layout is really comfortable, close to my fingers, and it makes sense, and I have everything outside already on the body itself. I don't have to dig deep. And then you can't really forget about the screen, the one that does it all. As you can see, it tilts up and down. You can pull it out from the body like this. It is pretty convenient, and I do believe that in 2026 every single camera should have this exact screen or like the technology behind it. And the EVF, this bad boy over here is way better than the one I used to use on the Sony a7 IV. And right now I'm not really hating on the camera that I used to use, not at all. I'm just saying that using this camera right now, especially when I'm doing photography, before then I really relied on the LCD because the EVF was not really as good. And I do compare that, you know, to the old DSLR days when you used to have the optical viewfinder, right? But this EVF is way better. It's brighter and it makes the whole process or the whole experience more comfortable to use. So if I'm doing photo, I'm using the EVF for sure. And even the LCD, like the monitor itself, is way brighter and better. So even if you're not using like an external monitor in your video work, the LCD alone can get you by. Again, this topic can differ from a person to another, but I'm gonna talk about my experience, which is the image quality. The image quality that comes out from this camera is just something else. It is different. I don't know how to put it into words, so just bear with me. It is not super sharp, but it's not really soft. It's just right. It feels natural. It feels real. I don't want to say the word filmic, but truly, it doesn't feel digital at all, even though I know that the previous models used to actually suffer from like over digitalization. But something with this sensor that they use in this camera, the 24 megapixel semi-stacked sensor, it produces a beautiful imagery. I've been enjoying it. I used vintage lenses, I've been using the Lumix lenses, the Sigma lenses as well, and even the skin color that comes out right away from the camera is just neutral. It's not shifting towards any color. Like, I did not really notice something wrong, but immediately I felt comfortable looking at the photo from the screen, even not from my computer. Using this camera compared to the past systems that I used, it made me right away, it made my eyes even like pick up the difference. It feels natural, it feels more human and more real. I don't know how to put it into scientific words that you guys can actually understand, but these are the emotions that I felt after the first day that I started using this camera, honestly. And as a videographer, I have to mention the video codecs that this camera offers, because it's a lot. And I know that you've seen all, you know, the menus and everything. I'm not gonna go even through them, but having the option, like, people were complaining about having too much, which is really crazy, because usually you would complain that you didn't have enough, right? You can't complain that you're having too much. And I did not take anything for granted at all. Ever since I got this camera, and remember, I did not have open gate before, so right now I have the option to shoot 6K open gate, 24 or 30 FPSs, and I can always shoot open gate slow motion as well at 60 FPS, which is great. Now, if you don't know about open gate, or if you want to hear more about open gate, I made a video talking about open gate and whether it's really worth it or just, you know, overrated. You can click on the link over there and check it out. But I've been utilizing the open gate feature, and why wouldn't I if this camera offers it, right? And also you got 60 FPS 4K with no crop, something that I really suffered before. And by the way, it's not like a deal breaker, but having to shoot at a certain mode without a crop is really something that, you know, worth mentioning, because at the end of the day, like, if I'm choosing that codec, or like if I'm choosing that resolution and I want to utilize the full sensor of my camera, then I should be able to do so. So as a wedding videographer as well, like shooting a lot of 4K 60, it was a beautiful experience. You know, you got cinema 4K codecs, you got every single codec that you can dream of, and it makes my life as a videographer, as a filmmaker, as a whatever, easier, because whatever project that I have in front of me and whatever codec it requires from me, most probably I'm gonna find it in this camera. So it is something impressive, and you should know about as well. Now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, and this is not entirely about the S1II, it's about this logo over here, the Lumix, but I'm gonna talk about the S1II because, again, that was what the first camera I had from that system. But the stabilization, it felt like I did not really know what stabilization means, and I'm not even exaggerating at all. This truly is a class leading when it comes to stabilization. Now, you got a great optical stabilization, and then you got a plethora of just stabilization modes in this camera. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but if I'm gonna mention, you know, one stabilization mode in the S1II, because it's kind of like unique to the S1II and the S1R2, the S1IIe, which is the cropless stabilization. So you got your optical stabilization working and activated. When you are using a Lumix glass on your S1II, you got the option to actually enable some extra layer of stabilization called cropless, and from the name of it, it doesn't crop from the frame. So imagine having 2 layers of stabilization without any cropping whatsoever. That is amazing. When I'm using my 24-60 from Lumix, I always have that mode on if I'm doing some handheld work with the camera. So I've been really enjoying the stabilization in this camera because I do shoot a lot of handheld. So having a great stabilization with a handheld shooter is a clutch. And I've been blessed with it, I've been utilizing it, and I've been using it the whole time. Something that I don't really use a lot, but I'm gonna talk about it today anyways, because it is really encouraging me to use it even more, which is the RAW capabilities that this camera has. So this camera, the S1II, it can shoot ProRes RAW internally, and it can shoot B-RAW externally. So having the option to actually shoot RAW, different kinds of RAW, is really impressive, especially when one of them is internally. So I don't have to buy extra, like, you know, the monitor to actually shoot ProRes RAW externally like what we used to. You can shoot it internally, which is great. And the caveat of that, the enormous file sizes. But then again, with this camera, and it's not really unique to the S1II, but again, you can always use it, which is you can record to an external SSD. So if you're recording RAW, you can either use, you know, the CF Express Type B, or you can hook it up to an SSD and then record externally to the SSD right away. Take your SSD, plug it in your computer, and you're good to go. But having a RAW flavor like ProRes RAW internally made me encouraged to actually start using it and explore that medium even more. The exposure tools that this camera have is just something else. It is crazy, and I'm not gonna talk about all of them. Today I'm just gonna mention the false colors. This camera has false colors internally, and that is impressive. A lot of cinema cameras from other brands, they don't even have false color internally, which is something crazy. So I was used to actually have my external monitor top of my camera so I can enable false color, so I can actually expose better, right? You can do that from your camera internally, which is great. I even, like, this exposure compensation button over here, I mapped it to actually enable the false color when I'm in video mode, so I can just check my false color real fast and then expose accordingly. Another topic, just like the RAW flavors, you know, something that I don't use a lot, but just because this camera is friendly when it comes to that topic that I'm gonna talk about, it makes me want to use it even more. Again, which is the anamorphic option that this camera offers. So this camera offers a lot of these squeeze options. So whatever anamorphic lens that you're thinking about getting, this camera will have a de-squeeze option for it. And not only the squeeze option and that's it, no, this camera offers an e-stabilization for anamorphic lenses based on the de-squeeze factor that you have. Combining these two features with the open gate sensor that you have, this is truly can be the best camera to use an anamorphic lens on. Up until this moment, I haven't shot really anamorphic, but for real, it's like one of those things when you have like a tool that enables you to do whatever, it makes you want to do this thing really more than before, if that makes sense. Also, something that I want to talk about, and it doesn't really mean that I really like about this camera, it's just something like a message for the potential switchers out there that are watching me right now and thinking about switching to Lumix or like getting the S1II, and it's the L-mount alliance. I'm gonna talk about this really fast, and my main message here, my main point to you as a potential switcher: do not be afraid. Don't think that this system is lacking in terms of glass, because it is not. Right now I do have every single thing that I might need to do, literally from weddings to corporate to real estate to whatever the case may be. I have my glass that is making me comfortable actually exploring these type of jobs, right? So if you're thinking about switching, don't worry about the lens options, because there is plenty and it's growing on a daily basis. The focus on this camera, the focus system that they are using currently is great. I came from Sony, and Sony is considered one of the best in terms of autofocus performance, right? And I'm not gonna talk a lot about it, but let me tell you that I haven't struggled with the autofocus. That's literally what I wanna leave here, that this camera, I'm not gonna say that it's as good, but it's great. It's good enough. It's good enough that it hasn't really caused me any problems whatsoever. And I shot a lot of different things. I put it in different conditions, different lighting situations, and it had never failed me at all. And even if the camera is not really smart enough or like intuitive enough, with the small modifications here and there, just playing with the settings, you can nail your focus right. And also it's something that I was not planning on actually talking about, but I'm gonna mention it, you know, and it's the dynamic range. And the reason that I didn't want to talk about it at all, because right now in this time and age, every single camera has really great dynamic range. So I'm not gonna boast about this camera or like say that it's better than others, because most of the times I'd be shooting against the sky and you can really recover a lot of information. This camera is great in terms of dynamic range. It can keep a lot of information stored that you can play with in the edit, and it's something that I had to mention. And also it got that mode, the dynamic boost mode, where you can actually get another stop of dynamic range, but in the process of doing so, that affects the readout speed of the sensor and actually causes rolling shutter. And again, it's not me hating on my previous body, but it's just something that I have to mention, right? This is my experience with the camera. So again, I was using the A7 IV, so finally jumping from the A7 IV to the S1II here in Lumix, the speed of that sensor is just impressive. So first of all, no rolling shutter whatsoever, or I don't want to say no rolling shutter, but it decreased. But me as a videographer, I truly appreciate the readout speed because I do a lot of handheld work, and those wobbly images that I used to have before, they were not really that good. So having a camera that has improved vastly in this, you know, section made me really comfortable and made me happy using this camera. So yeah, these are the things that stood out in this camera, things I really admire, and they helped me in my process. If you have any question about anything that I've talked about today, if you're thinking about switching to Lumix, or if you're thinking about getting the S1II, just drop a comment, let's have a conversation. I'm still exploring the camera, the system, because again, it's new to me, and even though I've been using it for 6 months, but the whole ecosystem is kind of new. So every day I'm learning something new, I'm figuring out something about the camera. But so far the experience been amazing and smooth, and I'm really happy with the decision that I made. At the end of the day, it's just a tool, camera is just a tool, but it's always nice when that tool works your way, works with you, not against you. So if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys, I appreciate you.